JCA for having me again. I really appreciate that. I have had success working with JCA. So again, thank you all for having me. I am going to talk a little bit about federal government resume writing. It is different than our private sector. Um, and I am just going to just quickly, real quick, throw in the chat where you can go to look for Department of Transportation positions. FAA is currently under Department of Transportation. And also, if you are on LinkedIn, you are more than welcome to connect with me. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to share my screen so that we can jump right into this. And again, if you have any questions, just please let me know. Okay, so applying for federal jobs, like I mentioned, it is definitely different than what you will see for private sector. And I'm going to go through that. So first, I just really quickly want to go through. I want to go through USA Jobs. There are some important things that I also like to share with people when you are going on USA Jobs, where all federal government positions are held. Putting in the keyword or something specific, unless you actually know what the job title is for the position you're looking for, I would kind of suggest leaving it blank. If it's administrative positions, you can put administrative in here. However, I would definitely leave it blank. The other thing is over here in location, it does say city and state. However, the only one that really works and will give you an array of positions is Washington, D.C. And that's because within the DMV area, they include Maryland and Virginia positions. So that's the only one that really works. However, say if you want to move back home or you want to move to Florida, and you could be moving to New Smyrna Beach. That's where my brother lives. So although it's close to Daytona, say if you just put in New Smyrna Beach and you don't get anything, I would suggest just putting in the state. That way you can see all positions, and you never know what office could be in a small area that actually could be, just 20 minutes outside of where you want to locate. So putting in your state is my suggestion for that. Also on USA Jobs, being able to identify, I'm sorry, I'm trying to scroll down, identify the hiring path. Again, if you know the exact job title, then yes, please put that in here in the keywords. As you see, I put management and program analyst here in Washington, D.C. For my search. If you've never held a government position, you want to make sure you pay attention to the hiring path as well. Again, the hiring path here, that is going to be on the right-hand side of USA Jobs. Again, here you'll see it over here on your right. So the hiring path is really, really important. I always get someone who will show me a job they applied for, and it's usually someone who does not have federal service, or they will probably find a job and it'll say internal to the agency. So selecting the hiring path is very important. Open to the public. So this can be anyone, even if you have had federal service. You want to apply to open to the public. And for those who have a disability, you can also check that as well. If you are a veteran, regardless of how many years, you can also select that as well, but also with open to the public. And that way it will give you all positions that are for you. Here's just an example so that you could see that when you select open to the public, veterans, and persons with disability, you'll see the icons by the job to tell you who can apply. All people with individuals with disability can apply to all open to the public positions, and also include your Schedule A letter or your VA disability letter in your job application here. So even though it just says open to the public, of course, that includes everybody that is listed under the hiring path. It just may not necessarily state that. And for here, like the second one shows specifically, like they are really trying to target people with disability, veterans, and so forth. So is it open to the public? Yes. However, you have to qualify for one of these: a person with disability, former employees. So again, just making sure you pay attention to some of the very small things that are on USA Jobs that can actually block you in the beginning. All right, so let's talk about your resume. I want to say there's a couple of secrets. I'm not going to necessarily say secrets, but there's a couple of tips that you really need to know when you are writing your resume. So there's a few things. I always get, I do this job, but I didn't qualify. Well, you ever wonder why? That you weren't referred or you weren't qualified? The position that you're applying to is very similar to what you do and you still aren't sure. Or again, all of the duties you've done before. Most likely it's going to be your resume. So when you are writing your resume, also this presentation will be available. So if you have any questions regarding that. So writing your resume, one of the important things is using headers rather on your resume is very good for federal government resumes. Again, remember, private sector and federal government resumes are different. Federal government resumes, we want a lot of detail. And because we are seasoned and we all have over 10 years of experience, it can be up 2 to 4 pages as well. So you want to make sure that you're using headings such as professional experience, volunteer experience. If you are currently getting a different degree, you can put educational projects up there. And again, those headings really make a difference when managers are looking at resumes. Show specialization in your resume. Look for the specialized experience, and I will definitely show you where you go and why that is important. Making sure that you build on that specialized experience, which you'll find in the vacancy announcement, should be in your resume. Include accomplishments. Another header you can have is awards. Another header you can have is a subheading under a job that says accomplishments. Highlight special projects. Use plain English. No acronyms. If you use an acronym, please make sure you spell it out. And then focus on the quality and quantity of your resume. And we'll get into that in just a moment. Again, these are helpful hints, making sure that when you are looking at government positions that you're tweaking your resume correctly. Customize your resume to fit the position. Provide sufficient detail. Again, using headers to help guide you. Work education, volunteer experience. And yes, for federal government, volunteer experience counts. You could be doing the same thing, volunteering somewhere that is happening within the workforce. Use past tense action verbs. You created, developed, enhanced. Using percentages in years of experience. So for instance, during my tenure as a budget assistant, I helped reduce supply waste and save the company 30% from last year's budget. This shows, you know, your efforts as well as your accomplishments. Some of the do not, when you're doing your resume, do not just state your duties. Tell the employer how well you did on your accomplishments, right? So the example I just used above is definitely a good one. Do not attach your position description or cut and paste it on your resume. I've seen several resumes and it just reads as a job description. You're not really telling me what you do and how you do it. And that is what we are looking for. Do not use acronyms unless they are spelled out. Again, I have a lot of military people and they give us so many acronyms. One acronym in another agency can mean something else in a different agency. So please spell out all of that. All right, federal government resume formatting is very important. So what I have in red is very important. And the reason that we are asking for this information, which is month to year to either month to year or month to year to present, and the 40 hours work per week. Showing your time frame from a job, which we need the month and year to the month and year, and then the number of hours. And the reason why we need this is because if there's a job that says that you have to have 3 years general work experience, you could have worked somewhere for a year and a half at 32 hours, and then another place 4 years at 40 hours. And so, or another place at 4 years at 32 hours. But when they are calculating the time as well as the month and year and how long you work, it will equal up to 3 years of full-time 40-hour work. So it is important, and especially depending on the position, that they want to see that you have a certain number of years of experience. And so putting the hours again per week, the month to year to present, or the month to year that you ended is very important. I do not suggest, folks will say, should I put my salary on there? Me personally, I do not suggest that. And that's my personal opinion. However, if you would like to put your salary, you can. You're more negotiable if you do not do that. Supervisors, putting that also on your resume for federal government resumes. Also stating may and may not contact. That is very important as well. There is no red flag. If you say may not contact, please ask first. It could be because you know the supervisor, you know that they are no longer at that company, but they could be at another company. For me, a previous supervisor is now deceased. And so beside his name, instead of a phone number, I put deceased, because, and there's actually no one that I worked with at my old employment. So I put, you know, may not contact, and then that is the reason. And even if you have a supervisor that possibly you had a conflict with, and you say may not contact, please ask first. 9 times out of 10, a manager not necessarily will not ask you that, but if they're interested and want to move forward, they'll just ask you for references. And obviously you don't have to put that supervisor down. Again, government resumes are more than 2 pages. One of the other questions that I always get is, I have well over 10 years experience. How do I put that on my resume? You actually do not. You go back 10 years. However, if you're applying for a position and it was something you did 15 years ago, then under other work, you make another heading and say other work experience, and then you list that job because it is relevant to the position that you are applying for. Also, education experience. Education experience is not listing the courses that you currently have taken. So if I've just taken, grant writing and I've taken a few courses in that, I'm not going to list that here. However, what is listed under education experience is the projects. Any projects that you have done, you want to make sure that you list under here. And so an example is, and this is just make believe, strategic management 410. What was the project? What did you do? What was the outcome? That is what you want to place here. And the reason is because your course project that you are working on or have worked on can actually be related to what is going on in the job place. And I've actually seen that happen, that a manager did ask someone to come in for an interview based off of a lot of their educational experience. So, which is great. And again, if it's within the last 3 to 5 years that you've had this educational experience, you want to put that up there. Okay, Ann or Jody, I'm going to stop before I go to see if we have any questions.
Okay. One is, do you have to be a U.S. citizen? This is asked all the time. Do you have to be a U.S. citizen to be employed by the U.S. government?
Yes, you do. Very rarely you will see positions that you actually can, have a work visa. However, I always suggest looking at different contracting companies that work with the government, or you can work with the contracting company. However, most of the contracting companies that you do have to have the proper paperwork and have lived in the United States for full time for at least 3 years.
Okay. This is a question regarding disability. If we have a disability, but it doesn't prevent us from performing the job, but might require accommodations if needed, depending on the work environment, should we select disability when applying or leave it out?
No, definitely select a person with disability. And the advantage to that is anyone who has a disability, the agency actually is able to hire you, 2 ways, either through the vacancy announcement or through selective placement program coordinator, right? And that is also my, I guess, second job. on OPM, you would look for SPPC, and I'll throw that link in the chat once I'm done. That if there's a vacancy announcement and you are applying, and say, for instance, you apply for a job and it happens to close due to budget issues, right, for the agency. And then 2 months later, they are looking for a person to fill that position, they can go back to that vacancy announcements rating list. And if they see a person with disability has applied, they can pull your resume from that, or they can pull it off of USA Jobs, and they can call you and say, hey, we found your resume on USA Jobs. You're a person with disability. We would like to bring you in for an interview. And it cuts down on some of the timing in bringing folks in. So it is to your advantage to place your Schedule A letter, and I'll also put that in the chat to make sure your Schedule A letter is properly written. Your disability should not be on there. And you can reach out to selected placement program coordinators to offer your resume for any positions that the agency may be seeking, because those positions may not technically be out on USA Jobs. And just a hint, since I'm here, we are looking for an instructional design specialist. And if you happen to do that and have a Schedule A letter, or you're a 30% or more disabled veteran, definitely let me know. Next question.
Yes, I that's a plug. If you read those requirements, contact Tamara. I've been with my current employer for 21 plus years and was promoted several times. Should I include all positions in the dates of service or just the last 10 years?
Yes, so you would put XYZ Corporation, city, state, your current title, and then your duties. And then next, you would kind of indent so that they could see and would be able to tell that you are your next position, to show that you have gotten promoted. You would put the position title, and then beside that, you could put promoted above, and then put your job description, and then all the remaining ones would again still be indented, so that they could tell those positions, you were still with the same company, but just promoted. And just put from the time you were there until present. So that definitely works.
Okay. And education experience means projects done, not the degrees you have.
Right. Education experience is the projects that you've done. You would have another education heading, just education strictly, where you would place where you got your, degrees from. So bachelor's, master's, doctorate, any of those degrees would just be an education, under education heading.
Okay. How many years of work experience should I include on in the federal resume, which is always asked?
Right. 10 years. So we
10
should go
years?
back 10 years. However, like I mentioned before, if you've done a degree, I'm sorry, if you've had a job that was 15 years ago, but it's relevant to the position that you are currently applying for,
Mhm.
make another heading that says other work experience, and then put that position.
Okay. Does your agency have part-time contractor positions?
If we do, it is through our contractors. And our contractors, and just making a plug for them.
Mhm.
A few is Leidos, Leidos, CGH Technologies, JLAN, JLAN, JLAN Solutions, JMA Solutions. Those are off the top of my head, the 4 contractors that we have that are always looking for employees.
And how did you know that was a question right in here? So thank you for answering that. Someone said that I was employed in the federal government over 30 years ago for a brief time. Should they use that or not?
Yes, you can. You can put that down there. If it's been over 5 years, you can kind of consider choosing the hiring path. Persons with, open to the public. And you can still use, select competitive service under the hiring path as well, because you do have prior service. However, let me say this. If you have been out of the government and it's been, over 5 to 10 years, look for open to the public positions. Why? Because you do not want them to ask you for your SF-50, which is what is given to for employees that will show the current grade level that they're at. And because you have experience after that particular job, you don't want them to try to make you come back in at the grade level you just started or you stopped at. So if it's more than 5 years that you have been outside of the government, utilize the open to the public job positions.
Okay, this is a question. I know you want to get back to your presentation, but one, they'd like you to repeat those contractors. So when you, at the end of your presentation, you could just put that in the chat. That would be great.
Okay.
And then how do you address a gap on your resume? You know, like if you've been a caregiver or a stay-at-home parent or, you know, whatever, but how do you address those career gaps in on your resume?
Right. So, and because we're all, 50 and over, we all remember back in the day, having a gap was like a red flag. It is no longer a red flag. Everyone just seems to have gaps somewhere for some reason or another. And majority of the time, it's usually always because of being a caregiver, majority of the time. So that's nothing to worry about for gaps. However, you can utilize volunteer experience. Your volunteer experience, you can say caregiver. So, you were transportation coordinator, budget assistant, um, um, you know, uh, nursing aide, right? So those are kind of titles that go along with being a caregiver. And if it was due to illness, you don't really have to put anything down, right? You don't have to put that down. But if you did do some volunteering, again, even in your volunteer experience, definitely give a lot of detail to that. So if you volunteer at your church, what is it that you do? You assist with bookkeeping, again, give some details to that. Do you hold meetings? Do you give quarterly reports? So the gap is not as large or a red flag as people think it is anymore.
Okay. And would you advise a person retired from the state of Maryland after 26 years of service to use retired on the federal application without statement on age, or how would you present that?
So when you're listing your job, you can put in parentheses retired, because that could be military, and we all know sometimes you can be 41 and have retired. For FAA, our air traffic controllers, they have to retire between the ages of 50 and 52. They can't go past 52. So, and they're, still young. So, putting, you can put retired, next to your job, or you can just, leave it off. But if you retired, it shows why you ended the position versus they think you may have quit or, was fired. So, Jody, I'll stop there so that
Sure.
I can go ahead and
Yes.
continue.
Okay.
All right. So moving on. So as I have mentioned, writing your experience, a few pointers, demonstrating the quality of your work. Again, remember I said this is why a resume can be up to 4 pages in detail. You want to demonstrate the quality of your work, complexity of complexity of work you performed, how independently you worked. Again, showing those accomplishments as well. Experience related to the target job, outcome, awards, recognition, and accomplishments. So here's a job posting, just administrative, something basic, because I want people to understand how we are going to develop a, as I always say, putting some meat on our resume. So just a few things here that are on the job description. Greets and receive visitors, schedule appointment, make meeting arrangements, provide clerical assistant, proofreading documents, right? So this is just some of the duties that are on the position. So when we're tweaking our resume, we want to make sure, again, that we are really giving detail to what they are asking. So in red, as I was assisting someone with their resume, this is what they had on their resume. Answered all incoming telephone calls, responded to questions, comments, etc. Now, this is what was on someone's resume. So after speaking with her, this is what we came up with. The first thing was, I told her, do not put etc. because I don't know what that means. Neither does the manager nor the HR specialist. We're not going to guess your duties. You have to be specific and really tell us. And so she had two positions on there now. Again, this was somebody who was younger. However, we all have vague things on our resume, especially when you are dealing with private sector. There's not a lot of detail. So for this position, again, this is what we came up with. As a reservation assistant, I was responsible for answering a 6-line phone system. During these phone calls, I maintained professionalism in responding to customers and provide extensive assistance as needed. I route all messages to the appropriate personnel via email. She also did volunteer work at her school. As a Virginia State University student ambassador, I served for 2 years. I developed relationships with prospective students by phone, mail, email, text, social media, and with personal visits. The purpose of these contacts are to gather information, answer questions, assist them to enroll at VSU, help them get to know what VSU has to offer. I help staff the student recruitment and orientation office for 5 hours each week, assisting with reception, phones, mailings, meeting with students and parents, and other duties as assigned. So you see how we gathered all that information just from what she originally had, which was answer all incoming calls, responded to questions and comments. Right? So this is what I am talking about by adding detail. Here, you actually can kind of visualize what she's doing and how she's doing it. So this helps a manager to say, oh, this is exactly what I need. She's doing exactly what I want someone to do in this position. So even if it's a higher level position, again, still being very detailed in that position and showing what it is that they want. So when we are tweaking our resumes, we have to think of a few things. And so there's a couple of systems that we can use: the PAR method, the STAR method, and the CCAR. The other two I will get to in just a moment. But the PAR method shows the problem, action, and result. Here, someone wrote on their resume, I developed an office tracking system for managing an increased number of audit report requirements. My new system improved workflow, file management, and communication methods, resulted in meeting reporting deadlines for the first time in 5 years. So it shows the problem, it shows the action, and it gives the result. So this is how you really show on your resume, again, not just the job description, but it really shows what you actually are doing in that position. Accomplishments. Accomplishments showcase the contributions you may have, how you have made a difference, what makes you stand out, reinforce your experience, and demonstrate that you can achieve results. So again, this can be a subheading under your position as well. and then examples of accomplishments. I'll just read one. Developed and implemented successful region-wide media campaign to raise awareness of housing discrimination. Customer surveys demonstrated a 35% increase in awareness and willingness to address potential housing discrimination. This is, just something. The last one, develop a well-received Excel spreadsheet to monitor, track lease expirations. Spreadsheet replaced manual tracking and is now in use throughout the division. So this just kind of shows the accomplishments of what you did in that position. Again, PAR is the problem, action, results. Identify responsibility, discuss how you address the problem, explain the outcome. STAR is situation, task, action, result. Describe your role and position in the company for your previous job is the situation. Task, think of a time you had to show your qualities by completing a specific task. Action, what did you do to achieve the task? Did you work off your own initiative? Result, what was the outcome of your action? How did they contribute to the success of your organization? CCAR to me is really for higher level positions or really technical positions. And that's just my personal opinion. However, anyone can use CCAR for any positions, which is content, challenge, action, result. The challenge, describe the challenge you face. What did you have to fix or launch? Content, describe the circumstances of the situation, the timeline. Action, describe the action you took to create the action. Describe high-level actions, not into the weeds. The result, describe the results, quantify, qualify the results, use numbers and percentages. And that is it, because I know we have a lot of questions. Based on that, I did put my LinkedIn in the chat, and so definitely connect with me there. And Jody, we can go to questions.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I've put all the questions. Okay. Would it be better to upload a resume as a Word document to usajobs.gov or use the resume builder on the website?
I always suggest uploading your document, the Word document, because it allows you to really expand upon your resume and really create it the way that you want to have it created.
Wonderful. And explain, I think there's some confusion, Tamara, when you said there's retirement age, that's at FAA because they're pilots. So there's not necessarily a blanket retirement age for federal positions within the government. It's at FAA, they have specific requirements for their pilots. Is that correct?
Well, it's our air traffic controllers, yes.
Yes.
So for our air traffic controller,
sure.
There's two in the government that has law enforcement and then air traffic controllers. They have specific retiring. However, FAA loves seasoned people. So just let me put that out there. They love to see people that already has experience that can literally show, oh my goodness, they actually are doing what we're doing. We have several actual careers that are based pretty much on being a second career. So we are looking for people that are going to be 45 and older to come into the agency.
Right. So there's no blanket retirement age, because someone would say, no, it's just for, air traffic controllers, law enforcement. I mean, which would make a lot of sense. Okay. So when you're talking about using headings and indents, how does that behave with like the ATS system?
Okay, so I don't know what the ATS system is.
Like when you're, I think it's talking about like tracking, like systems that, if that they use computer, that software to like see if they're meeting all of the, if
Or like
they're
an
trying to
automated
highlight.
tracking system?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Now repeat the question again.
So when you're talking about like when you were talking about like putting on your resume using headings and indents, someone had a question about how does that work with the automated tracking system?
Um, so one of the things that I do want to show you really quickly
Mhm.
is it's it is using some of the keywords, and so however, the most important thing, and I am just going to share this really quickly, is when you're on a vacancy announcement, what you should be looking for, what you should focus on. Although I gave the example with the job description, it was just showing what the basic description was. But on a job vacancy announcement, and this is, and I may have given this job as well to Ann, and she'll be posting that as well. On here, although you have your duties area, the most important thing on a vacancy announcement on any federal job, so whether it's FAA or anywhere else, is under the qualifications section. So under requirements, you'll see the qualification, and then you'll see specialized experience, which we see here, right? This is actually what your resume and any of the systems are going to detect, are looking for these words that are in the specialized experience, but for it to be on your resume. So again, being very detailed, it says assisted writing, research writing, and typing non-technical correspondence. So this is definitely where you want to you know, again, use the PAR system. How do you write? What are you utilizing when you're researching? Say the tools that you're researching, Google, LexisNexis, Westlaw, those are legal systems. Anything else, that you have done. Um, and so this is where all of that description comes out at, right? Then you'll tackle the next thing, reviewing and distributing incoming correspondence. What does that look like for you? Reviewing correspondence. You could say something like, as in receiving, U.S. postal mail, I review all mail items and distribute to appropriate office. I may scan the documents in and send via email and hold for pickup later, or something to that effect. But again, this is the section that is very important. And as you see, it has different levels and different levels of experience. So here we have the because we're pay band, we're a little bit different, but GS. So this is the level that it's at. This is the next higher grade level that it's at. And if you've done the things that they're asking for the next grade level, that's what you want to base your resume on, is the highest level in
Okay.
which you are seeking.
Wonderful. And like someone said, if I'm an applicant to the FAA for an administrative job, but I have a private pilot certificate, would that be an asset in any way?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Yeah, so if you are a private pilot and you've
mhm.
done instruction, piloting, yeah, definitely, there's definitely different positions out there. And I will say the most utilized job title that anyone can look for, unless it's really specific, is management and program analyst, because that has an array of everything in it. However, if you've pretty much been a financial analyst or budget analyst, those are what you want to look for. Um, again, depending on what you are looking for, someone if you are a private pilot, you can just put kind of pilot in under FAA, under on USA Jobs, and just make sure you're on the FAA page, and then put in pilot, and then any position that is requiring that skill set will definitely come up. But again, management and program analyst is the one that has an array of everything: budgeting, contracting, HR, policy, everything.
Wonderful. I know we want to get you, we will promise you 5 extra minutes to talk about some job opportunities. So if you want to present those, and then I can let you know where we've left off on the questions if you have another minute or so.
Okay. All right. So currently, I am, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to try to grab this link for you. I am the what am I? The Selective Placement Program Coordinator. And we are out here under OPM, and I am going to give you that directory. So that way, if you are a person with disability, that you can go out here and you can actually look for, you can contact them to say, I'm a person with disability. And so by me being the Selective Placement Program Coordinator, our job comes through us for different things. So right now, what we are looking for is what is it? Instructional design specialist. So if you have designed courses, created curriculum, created study guides, anything like that, we're actually looking for someone with that experience. So definitely contact me. I did put in the chat earlier where you can go to find, and so I'm not being selfish. I did put the link, and I'll do it again. I'll put for all of all positions under Department of Transportation, since that is our parent agency. I am putting in the chat, and it's going to include open to the public and persons with disability that we have out there. So we have an array of positions. We have aviation safety assistants. Those are pretty much administrative positions. So if you see aviation safety assistant, don't fear like, oh, I don't have aviation knowledge. It's more of the administrative skills. We are looking for financial analysts as well that are out here. We are looking also for and this is a hard job title, operations research analyst. And that pretty much would be someone who is a mathematician, an economist, or, and I'm gonna say this, muffle it up, statistician.
Very good. That was good.
Right, a tongue tire. So if you are any of those three, we are definitely and always looking for that. We have those openings. Again, I just put in the chat all of that. So, and let me say, at FAA, we hire everything. So, just maybe not basket weaving, but we hire everything from administrative, HR, contract specialists, finance specialists, writing, editor, policy, international. We do have doctors and nurses. They are in Chicago and Oklahoma specifically. Communications, God, what else? Financial budgeting. Again, we just have an array of positions, and we actually have a whole lot of we have a whole lot of positions, and Anne is cutting and pasting them in the chat. Again, when you are looking at a vacancy announcement, please remember to look at the qualifications. I have applied to positions and wondered why I did not make the certification. And of course, I'm just applying to it because I'm like, oh, I didn't really pay attention and it was last minute and was like, oh, it's 10 o'clock. Oh, the job is about to close. I'm just going to apply. But when I went back and noticed like I didn't qualify, like, why wouldn't I qualify? I went to the specialized experience and I was like, oh, okay, well, no, I never done that before, right? And it wasn't in my resume. However, that's not how the job duties stated. So we tend to focus on the job duties and not the specialized experience.
Mm.
And so the specialized experience is what you have to really put on your plate and is the meat of the resume and how the systems will rate you. And then the HR specialist also looks it over to make sure everything is correct, and then rate you in from that as well.
Oh, well, Tamara, I mean, this has been a wealth of information. We've loved having you here. And everyone, the job opportunities that Tamara came with today, you are going to be getting them in your email from Anne at in the next couple of days when she sends you that whole packet. So do not worry. Tamara, I don't know, do you have 5 minutes or so to answer any unanswered questions in the chat, or
Yes,
you have to
yes.
jump off?
Nope,
Oh,
nope.
okay. So if you have Tamara, we are at we are at 10:55. Do we need to obtain security clearances prior to apply? Just from that, go down, and you can address them directly to them. And then if anyone has questions for Tamara while she's still in chat, please address them to Tamara directly. Tamara Smith with FAA. And she'll answer your questions as long as she can stay in the chat. So thank you, Tamara.
Thank you so much.
You were fabulous as always. We really appreciate you being here. Anne, do you want to introduce our next